Thank you, President. Colleagues, as the United States has made clear, a durable end to the war in Gaza must come with the release of hostages. This is not just our view. This was previously affirmed by the Security Council as reflected in Resolution 2735. At a time when Hamas is feeling isolated due to the ceasefire in Lebanon, the draft resolution on a ceasefire in Gaza risks sending a dangerous message to Hamas that there's no need to negotiate or release the hostages. It would be shameful and wrong if the General Assembly voted today to vindicate Hamas's cynical strategy of stalling and obstruction. Indeed, rather than relieving pressure on Hamas, the General Assembly should be adopting a resolution that increases pressure on Hamas to accept the deal on the table without conditions and without further delays. There are still 7 American citizens in the hands of Hamas and more than 100 hostages from more than a dozen countries whose families are waiting to be reunited with their loved ones. We will not forget them. Even as the Gaza resolution before us today does nothing to advance a realistic diplomatic solution, the United States will continue to pursue a diplomatic solution that brings peace, security, and freedom to Palestinian civilians in Gaza. With regard to the resolution on UNRWA, the United States also will keep working to improve the humanitarian situation on the ground, which requires unhindered humanitarian access and sustained humanitarian aid flowing into Gaza to reach those in need. To that end, UNRWA remains a critical lifeline to the Palestinian people. At present, no other entity is capable of providing life-saving humanitarian assistance to millions of Palestinians in need. Any interruption in UNRWA's work would lead to severe humanitarian consequences for millions of Palestinian civilians. UNRWA personnel must enjoy freedom of movement to provide needed educational, health, relief, and social services. Israel's fight is with Hamas, not UNRWA, and humanitarian personnel must not be targeted. The UN is part of the solution, not the problem, and should play a role in bringing the conflict to an end. And yet, today's resolution on UNRWA operations also has serious flaws. It fails to create a path forward for restoring trust between Israel and UNRWA, despite U.S. efforts to put forward a proposal that would do exactly that. Colleagues, this is a serious deficiency. No one benefits from the UN's failure to address lingering questions about whether or not UNRWA personnel have violated the agency's neutrality policy. The proposed resolution on UNRWA is also problematic in that it denigrates Israel's actions in Gaza without addressing the central reason for them, namely Hamas's unprovoked October 7 attack and the terrorist group's deplorable behavior in the interim. More than 14 months into this conflict, some delegations here in New York cannot bring themselves to acknowledge, let alone condemn, Hamas's role in instigating a conflict that has visited so much pain, suffering, and anguish on the people of Gaza. We deeply regret that the drafters chose to try to score political points rather than pursue a resolution which could have provided unanimous support to UNRWA, address credible allegations about the activities of some of its personnel, and ultimately bolster UNRWA's vital humanitarian mission. Ultimately, Israeli officials and the UN must communicate and coordinate with each other to accomplish the task at hand, providing essential services to Palestinians in desperate need, who neither started this conflict nor have the ability to end it. Colleagues, the messages we send to the world through these resolutions matter, and both of these resolutions have significant problems. One rewards Hamas and downplays the need to release the hostages, and the other denigrates Israel without providing a path forward to increasing humanitarian assistance to Palestinian civilians. For these reasons, and despite good faith efforts to find common ground, the United States will vote against these resolutions. We encourage other delegations to do the same. We can and must do better to set the region on a path toward a durable peace. For the benefit of future generations of Palestinians, Israelis, and the broader region. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of United States. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Yemen.